Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Scott McKinley. Welcome to the off season. Thank God. I don't think I've been as excited about football as I am right now since about August, maybe, right, Scott?
Yeah. It has definitely been a trying season for everybody. I think everybody's been frustrated. I think everybody breathed at least a little bit of sigh of relief when that final whistle sounded on Friday. It's over.
Yeah.
So
it's not just over. I said it's over with an A apostrophe, just kind of accent
yes.
That last word, right?
Yeah. That was, I felt like that game Friday kind of encapsulated a little bit of the whole season for us. Just nothing was going right. We were down to what was at the start of the year, probably our third or fourth string quarterback on offense. Ollie Gordon only got a few touches, which, okay, I know there's a lot of people that are going to, point to that. At the same time, I also see it for the young man. If he'd have gotten hurt against Colorado, that wouldn't have been right for him. You know what I mean? At a certain point, okay, we got to think about the kids too. So, the one thought that kind of crossed my mind though, as we move into the offseason, and I'm sure we're going to get into recruiting, NIL, all that kind of stuff. In a way, what we kind of saw Friday was a little bit of old school versus new school.
No doubt. Great point.
My Gundy's definitely old school, but then you got Coach Prime, with Colorado embracing NIL, embracing transfer portal, and that's, we saw what the result was. And my hope is that we're going to be able to, obviously you can't replicate what Deion's doing at Colorado. No, there's one Deion Sanders right now in college football, but I do think we're going to have to play that game more than what I think we would necessarily want to. But that's
the dude at Arizona State's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah,
they're playing to make the playoffs next weekend.
Yeah, that's kind of, I'll be honest with you, I've been caught a little bit off guard by the parity that we have seen in college football this year, not just in the Big 12, but you look at some of the teams that are primed to get in. SMU, I would have never thought that would be one. I would have never.
They have money though, man. The NIL, when it comes down to money, that's going to help SMU because they have it.
Yeah, exactly. But then you look at what Arizona State's been able to do. There's a number of teams throughout the country that it's just kind of surprising. One of the other interesting things that I posted on my personal Facebook account today that I thought was interesting is, obviously I was rooting for my dad went to Texas A&M, so I've got a little bit of Aggie in me, so I was rooting for the Ags last night. But when I looked this morning at the top 25, Texas is the number 2 ranked team in the nation. They play in the almighty SEC. They do not have a single win against a top 25 team as of today. The only top 25 team they played was Georgia, and they got hammered. Who would have ever thought that all those things would be true in a given season? So no, it's just been a crazy season. I think going back to OSU, as you and I have talked many times, this has got to be the most perplexing season that we've ever had. There's so many things that just don't make sense. How can we not run the ball with an offensive line that had a Doak Walker winner last year, and then the same Doak Walker winner is coming back again this year? How do we then have a quarterback that has literally forgotten how to throw who beat OU last year? There's so many things that just don't make a lot of sense. And hopefully in the next hour or so, whatever, we're going to try to at least make some sense of it, or at least make some sense of where we're going to be going from here. Because I think that's the big question on everybody's mind.
I think everybody's excited about our quarterback room. We have a first comment here from Wet Blanket. Wet, thank you so much for joining. I have gone on record to saying, unless you can go get the elite upper echelon type of quarterback, which is going to take a hell of a lot of money, I don't want Oklahoma State to go get a Porter quarterback because there's so many different parts of this team that have to get fixed. It's kind of like you take a major league team, like let's take, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, right? And they go get Juan Soto, and they sign him to $75 million a year for 12 years. Okay, well, they have a great player, and Juan Soto is going to be great, and he's probably going to have 4 or 5 games a year that, or more than that. Maybe, let's say he has 15, 20 games a year where he has 5 RBIs and carries the offense to a win, right? But then because of the restrictive contract that he has, then you can't go get the 2 or 3 pitchers on the margin. You can't go get the relief pitcher on the margin that you need. Yep. You can't get the catcher. You can't get the left fielder. So are you better with the top end Juan Soto talent with a lot less talent around him, or are you better spreading that out and filling in the margins? And even like the best teams like the Dodgers, they win because of the Tommy Edmonds and the Ryan Braziers and the Blake Trinans, the guys that they went and got on the margins, because when they got an Ohtani, they signed him to a contract that deferred all the money to where they could still build around him. So I say all that long story, Scott, to say if OSU goes and gets let's say a quarterback that's a slight improvement over Garrett Rangel, but because that quarterback is so expensive, now you can't go get the offensive and defensive linemen that you need. Is that actually a plus positive for Oklahoma State?
In my opinion, it's not. And there's another thing that I've thought about with that particular strategy. Football, unfortunately, is a game of injuries. If you got all your eggs in one basket from a dollar standpoint, that guy hurts his ankle. Well, now you've got absolutely nothing. So no, I totally agree with you. I think really what OSU needs to focus on is we need to get better in all phases. Now, does that mean that doesn't mean that we're going to be able to go from, okay, we're terrible in this spot right now to where we've got the absolute best in that position next year? That's not realistic. We don't have the money for it. That I think we've got to understand that. But I think my goal is if we can get better in every position, and like you said, just even marginally better in every position, I think it'll pay good dividends for next year.
Let me stop you there, Scott, and let me piggyback on that, because you brought this up last time. You mentioned if you're better marginally at every position in baseball, you still might lose, right?
Yeah.
In baseball, there's too many equalizers.
Yeah.
But if you're marginally better at every spot in football, you're probably going to blow the other team out.
Yeah.
That's how significant winning on the margins at each position is. So didn't mean to stop you there, but I wanted to go back to what you said last week about the margins.
Yeah, and I still believe that wholeheartedly, because it's and the other thing is because and we talk about this too, is if you're not good in one area, like you're just absolutely terrible at one area, it affects everything else. If you can't run the football, it's going to affect your passing game. If you can't pass the ball at all, it's going to affect your running game and vice versa. So no, I think that's where we're at from a player standpoint. We've got to get better and try to upgrade our talent at every single level that we can. And my hope is I do think we're going to have more NIL funds available this year than we did last year, just for various reasons. Just, that we've put a better focus on it. Now, does that mean that we've got the money that Texas does? No. But I do think that we're going to have more at our disposal. And I do think that we're probably going to see a change in philosophy from our coaching staff. In fact, I think Gundy may have mentioned something about that, as to how we use the available dollars available to us to go after those individual recruits.
See, and I know a lot of people have taken that as like criticism towards Gundy, like this guy's clueless. I mean, listen to him talk about not spending NIL dollars and this and that. I mean, I don't know how you could criticize the comments he made on the radio last night, because what he was doing was he was, like whenever you've made a mistake, the first step in fixing that mistake, Scott, is admitting your mistake, right? Yep. Until you admit what you did wrong, there's no way that you can possibly move forward. What Mike Gundy did last night or Friday night in his post-game radio talk was he admitted, hey, guys, I blew it. Okay, it's in the past. Literally the only thing I can do about it now is not do it again. And that's what he point blank said is, I will not do that again. I see the error of my ways. So as far as his comments towards the way that he misused the NIL last year and versus the way he plans on using it in the future, I don't see how any Oklahoma State fan could take that statement that he made as anything other than exciting, because he's admitting the mistakes he made and he's telling you his plan to fix it moving forward, which is what we've all been asking for. What's the plan, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's, OSU fans the whole season, we've been asking for change. Okay, yes. Well, we can't get mad at the guy when he makes a change.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And to make change, you got to admit what you need to change for. Like, you made a mistake here, right? That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that was something I thought about, that, Mike is very confident individual, and he should be. You want a football coach that exudes confidence, right? Now that confidence eventually can bleed over to a little bit of arrogance sometimes as well. I will concede that. But at the same time, I think for Mike Gundy right now, what we need is just a little bit of humility, and I think we saw a little bit of that on Friday. As far as we might as well get into it, talking about coaching carousel. let's start with Casey Dunn.
Yeah.
So we have a long track record with Dunn. Gundy's very familiar with him. I'd like to think he knows his strengths, his weaknesses. He knows Casey Dunn about as well as any other assistant coach that he's ever had. I think we would all agree that play calling's been sketchy at best, and we've got multiple years to prove that. Dunn has a good reputation as a good recruiter, but I would also throw this one out: is Casey Dunn was proven as a good recruiter in the old days.
Yes.
Good
point.
Is he worth the okay, we may deal with a bad play call here and there, that kind of a deal, in order to get these kids in? Because the other thing that you think about is if it's all about the dollars, right? If the way that these recruits are looking at it is, if one team is $100 more than the other team, I go with the $100 more no matter what. Okay, then it doesn't matter what kind of a good recruiter you've got from a coaching standpoint. You lose that kid anyways just because of the dollar thing. The question is okay, basically on the margins, if we've got a kid where we're pretty similar in NIL dollars to another school that's similar, does Casey Dunn make the difference for us bringing that recruit into Oklahoma State or not? I don't know. I have not been a part of those conversations ever. I can't make any judgments about that, but I think that's what Mike Gundy's going to have to look at when it comes to Casey Dunn. As far as the rest of the offense, personally, I would like to see a change on the O-line. I've seen, in my opinion, I've seen enough. We've had too many seasons where we just can't run the football. I mean, we somehow
and you can't explain it. It's like, what?
Yeah. That's and I think that's my deal. It's just there's been too many seasons that we just flat can't run the football. So I think those, in my opinion, I think there's change that needs to be made there. As far as what you do with Dunn, I don't know. I don't know where he's at, where his headspace would be at if Gundy asked him, hey, do you want to stay on as a recruiting coordinator, as a wide receiver coach or something like that? Or is he just, hell bent on being an offensive coordinator? He may be. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what you do with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Dunn's got to go. He cut my throat the other day, Coach.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take Ollie Gordon with you then. Don't suit him up. I mean, you can't tell me Ollie Gordon didn't want more than 4 carries. So there's no way that Ollie Gordon on national freaking television, who, by the way, I've heard from people that are way smarter than I am. He's like 7th round draft pick right now, okay?
Yeah.
Of course, he may go to the combine and kill it, but I'm just telling you, I have heard from people that would know way better. Now, they may be wrong. Don't get me. I mean, everybody's been wrong before, but they've been around this a lot more than any of us have. And the round that they said come out of their mouth was 7th round. Okay, so if that's the case and you're trying to protect Ollie Gordon on national so you had a nationally televised game, okay, with Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, and Prime on the sideline. There is no better way to accent the excellence of Ollie Gordon and put him in a better light and maybe even increase his stock than show him off in that game. So the argument of trying to keep him from getting hurt in that game based on the projections of where he might go or what he might not do. So that goes to the argument, guys have not been playing in bowl games forever. So when do guys start not playing regular season games? Because now I'm going to be worth all this money in the NFL and we can't make the playoffs. So these are meaningless games. So you tell me, what's the definition of a quote unquote meaningless game? I would say as a fan, I would say as somebody who donated to the NIL that specifically goes to Ollie Gordon, that if you're going to use the term meaningless to me, that's a pretty damn big slap in the face after I just dished out money to somebody who to get him back to come back to OSU, right? That's a pretty difficult argument to have.
Yeah, and I could definitely understand why an OSU fan would feel that way. I mean, sincerely. I mean, that's if we're going to be asked to give this money to the program and give it to the players, I expect full effort for a full season. Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely get that. Something tells me I think what probably happened is they looked at it as our O-line still can't block. I mean, we could throw Ollie out there for 20 rushes. Our offensive line still just they're not going to get him a hole. They haven't gotten him a hole all season. But switching to the defensive side of the ball.
Before we do that, let me ask you this question, and see what your answer would be. So I've made it very clear that as of coming out of the game Friday. I'm ready to move on calling plays. I have a lot of respect for Casey Dunn. I hope he stays at OSU in some capacity and helps the program do whatever it is he does best, right?
Right.
But I don't want him calling my plays anymore. So talk me out of that.
I think the only question I would have is who are you going to have to replace him? But because from a standpoint, from what I've seen, there's been so much inconsistency and frankly, so much head scratching on why are we doing this? There's things that you can just see that it's okay. Like prime example, I think you may have mentioned it before in an earlier podcast with Chase. Okay, guys, you got Travis Hunter back there, probably a Heisman, either a winner or at least he's going to be a finalist. Hey, let's have our freshman quarterback drop back and try to thread a needle in there with Travis Hunter back there. That's, again, what are we doing?
To the sideline, 40-yard throw in the air.
Yeah. Where we've seen that Milwaukee Smith, his strength is running the football. Mm-hmm. Let's make some easy throws so that he doesn't have to, not having to thread a needle. I mean, it's that kind of stuff, and not to bring up bad memories, but I still remember 4 tries inside the 5-yard line. We couldn't get a couple yards to win a Big 12 championship. That one bothered me. That one, I was there. That one hurt. So no, I'm with you. I'm ready for somebody else to call the plays. Yeah. I don't know who that is. I don't know what you do with Casey Dunn, but what we're doing right now on offense is not working.
Yeah.
So you got to make a change.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I think we're to that point, and that's with all. If you can make this statement, I know that you're trying to speak out both sides of your mouth when you say it like this, and it usually drives me insane. But with all due respect, okay, I just think it's time that Oklahoma State move on from Casey Dunn. And when I say with all due respect, what I mean is I'm 100% convicted behind what I'm saying. And if I ever have a chance to meet him face to face, I would say that to him face to face. But the all due respect comes into, okay, this isn't like just a knee-jerk reaction to one game. This is a reaction over a long window of time. And then it's also a reaction to allowing an entire season to play itself out and just realizing, hey, this isn't going to get better. Because here's the thing that really, okay, if you're not going to run Ollie Gordon, then freaking put Rodney Fields and Trent Howland and whoever else it is out there. Because you're just going to throw Milwaukee Smith out there, a true freshman who's in his second game starting, and you're going to have him play against Travis Hunter and say, hey, we're just not going to run the ball today. Milwaukee, good luck, brother. I mean, I can't do it. I can't support that in any way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree on that.
Yeah.
And with all these coaches, another analogy that I thought about is it's a little bit kind of like the stock market. When somebody goes in and buys a stock, they don't give 2 hoots about what the stock has done in the past.
Good point.
They care about where's it going in the future. So to me, what I'd say is I think this whole thing is it's like picking a stock. All right, are you picking Dunn as your stock, or are you going to pick this other guy?
Or are you picking Gundy or Prime? Which one stands to have the better future in this climate of college football, right?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like Prime, Deion's got he has a unique situation with all the NFL, just the publicity, all that kind of stuff. But what I would say is that from this point moving forward, coaches that embrace NIL and paying players and doing all those kind of things, those are the coaches that are going to be successful. Guys that don't embrace it, they're not going to be successful. It's that simple.
Another thing it's going to take is a lot more, because, Scott, what takes so much time, like drawing your plays, that doesn't take very long at all. No. I mean, that's easy. I mean, any coach has a brain like, okay, well, they're running a cover 2. We do this, we do that. Here's the personnel we have. We're going to beat them here. As far as the overall amount of time in coaching, that really doesn't take all that much time.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's reinventing the wheel in football at this point, right? What takes all the time are the relationships. What takes the time is, okay, I need to know this human being better than they know themselves, so I can know how to react whenever I see an expression, or I can react when I see him. Okay, well, that was a little bit off. That was weird. So let's make an adjustment here. So getting to understand these players in a way that's just becomes innate to you, right? Having a relationship with them that is so close, and you know their mannerisms, and you know what they do well and bad, and you know what their reactions are when they're not confident. Like I've heard coaches go, oh, he's getting ready to nail one. And then a guy nails one. You're like, how in the hell did you know that? You're like, I've seen this dude. I saw the look on his face. I knew what he was getting ready to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's what takes all the time. And I think that's probably where a guy like Mike Gundy is. So, okay, yeah, spend NIL dollars. Everybody's doing that, right? That's, to me, where he has the most amount of room to make up, and where he's going to have to change the most is he's going to have to get back to having seriously close relationships with his players that he can understand, what's going wrong when, and then that will draw in a little bit more talent and get the most out of him. That's something I don't think he's been doing.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And there was Boone Pickens made a comment about that a long time ago that Mike's not a real big relationship guy.
No.
And he's not. And I will be 100% honest. I don't think that bodes well in the NIL transfer portal.
That's what I'm saying.
It just doesn't. So like you said, either he's going to have to change in that regard. That has to be part of the plan, that you're going to have to start having relationships with these guys. Because what player wants to commit to a school that doesn't have a good relationship with their coach? Not
or get your ass chewed by a coach that doesn't show that they give a crap about it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Just you got to have a rapport, I would say, with all of your players. And I realize that's difficult because you got 100 and something kids or whatever within your organization, plus your support staff and everything. You can't be everything to everybody all the time, but I think you've got to at least do the best that you can to try to have relationships with those players. So I'm afraid that that's not going to bode well for us in the future.
It worries me.
Yeah, that really does concern me. Obviously, I will say that. Do I think Gundy is capable of getting us back to a bowl game next year? Yes, I do think that. I do think that is possible. Do I think we're going to be ready to win a Big 12 title next year? Not quite ready to put that.
Until you look at everybody else. What does everybody else have? Nobody else is great.
Yeah, that's and like we said many times, if the plan is executed and we bring in a lot of talent coming out of the portal, you can turn this thing around on a dime. It can be done. But again, you're going to have to embrace all right, this is how we're going to have to show recruits around. You're going to have to pay the NIL dollars. And again, I go back to the coaching staff. Here's another question that I ask myself is, I think everybody recognizes that the failures of this year, okay, it's partly on the coaches, it's partly on the players. There's all kinds of variables you could throw.
It's always 100% on the coaches. Even if it's on the players, it's still 100% on the coaches.
Exactly.
Because it's the coach's job to get them not to play good. It's always on the coaches.
Exactly.
Always.
Exactly. Because it was their job to get the right recruit in there anyways. So
correct.
So I think the question is, okay, yes, we can get better players in there, maybe. But again, if you don't have, it's the coach's responsibility to do that. And if these guys aren't getting the right players in there, and I think the biggest complaint that I have is I saw poor technique. We still can't tackle. We still can't stop the run. We're still leaving guys wide open in the secondary. And even when we are covering, we're not getting our head turned around in time. It's just, there's so many things that we're just awful at. It's not even, if it was only a talent issue, we would just see that our guys, okay, well, we were just a half a step late from where we needed to be because we just didn't have a guy that had enough speed. That's not necessarily the case. Look at what happened Friday with all the penalties. I can't remember. That's all on coaching. It's all on coaching. And that's very uncharacteristic for a Mike Gundy coach team, which again is a head scratcher. There's other things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But if
kids aren't motivated, man.
Yeah.
They're not buying in.
Yeah. Well, the culture thing that we always like to talk about, I'm going to be honest, just from what I saw this year, culture, not good. We can slam our fist down on a podium and say, yeah, we got great Cowboy culture. Our kids don't give up, all that stuff. But frankly, we saw games where our kids were not giving full effort. Baylor. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying
you can't
that
tell me they gave
everybody.
full effort Friday. Sorry.
Do what?
And in some of those games, sorry,
Yeah.
we're talking about effort, really. That ought to tell you everything you need to know right there.
Exactly. So to me, and the thing is, if we're talking about, all right, our culture is not in a good place, if we want to get it in a good place, you're going to have to make changes on the coaching staff to get that culture back to where you want it. Just that's the only way to do it.
So Mike Gundy's built a lot of equity here at Oklahoma State. My one little barn's here having a fit. Come here, boy. All right, my barn here is having a fit. So sorry, I'm having to deal with him. Oh, right there. Okay, so I'm going to try to make this statement so I can get it over to you so I can mute this and get away from him barking here. But, okay, so Mike Gundy's built a lot of equity at Oklahoma State, right? He's had a great 18 years. Last year, literally this time last year, Oklahoma State was getting ready to play in a Big 12 championship game to where if it was the same setup as it is this year, we would be getting ready to play a game that if we won, we were going to be in the playoff, right?
Yep.
That was less than a year ago. I mean, it was 360 days ago. 2021 was an awesome year. 2 years ago in 2022 was not a good year. This year was a disaster. And then the 18 years prior to that were, by and large, really good, especially for Oklahoma State standards. So I think every OSU fan would have to admit that Mike Gundy has built up a lot of equity at Oklahoma State, right? So how much equity of that has he burned? All of it? Is there still some left? I mean, I think there's enough left to get him through this offseason and into next year and give him the chance to change it next year. But is this the last straw? Has this burned all of his equity at OSU?
I don't think it's burned all of it, but I will say this. I think that he is in a vastly different place today than he was at this time last year, and not just because of the record. Obviously we all know about the comments on the press conference. I'm over it. Hopefully most people are, but right now we're not winning. We're not embracing new ideas. As of this point, we haven't made any changes, although I do think changes are coming. But at this point in time, no changes.
Why not already, Scott? Why has he not already made changes? I mean, he says he needs to evaluate. Evaluate what? I mean, what have you been doing in practice this whole year? If you need evaluate what, dude? Have you not gone back? So do you not self-evaluate every week? Do you not already know how shitty this has been? Yeah. I mean, everybody else does. How can you not? So what? Yeah. So what are the next 3 days are you going to go evaluate that you shouldn't have already had on paper? Whatever changes he's going to make should have been made on the plane ride back home. Sorry.
No, I completely agree. Well,
that's frustrating. And that's what's making me lose support for Mike Gundy right there. Well, either clean house and do what you need to do to get this figured out, or get the hell out of here. One of the two.
There's an old saying. It says anything that must occur eventually should be done immediately.
Yes.
And my deal is the transfer portal's about to open.
Yes.
You need to do it now.
Get your coach in here and let's go.
Yeah, get the next guy in here. Start having interviews Monday morning, and let's get it done. So no, I'm completely on board with that. There changes needed. Whatever changes are going to be made, they need to be made now. Don't wait a week. Don't wait 2 weeks. It needs to be done right now. But I think
should have already been done.
Yes.
I mean, I'm already frustrated. And I'm trying to stick up for Mike Gundy. I'm trying to say he's built equity enough to have the ability to fix next year, right? And I'm taking heat for that, which is fine. I don't care. But what I'm saying is he's making it really hard on guys like me by slow-footing this thing around. Come on, Mike. I mean, let's go. I mean, there's no reason to wait on this.
Yeah, make your decision and let's go with it. The other thing that I think my concern moving forward is, let's be honest, this program, the coaching staff, we've lost our mojo right now.
Yes.
And I think the question is, can a guy that's been here for 20 years suddenly get that mojo back?
Good point.
I don't.
Good point.
I just don't. I tried to think yesterday if I could think of an example of when that has happened. I can't think of one. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that have had a lot of good years, but they didn't just go down to rock bottom and then all of a sudden they built it right back up. So that's my concern. I think moving forward is
you know what I would say to that? I would say if there's a human being on earth that could do that, you know who it would be? It would be Mike Gundy. Yeah. He is that. I mean, it's almost like he likes to sabotage things and burn them down so then he can have the challenge of building them back up. I mean, he's crazy like that.
Yeah, well, people have always said he's best when he's pressed up against the ropes. Yeah. Well, he is firmly against the ropes today. So we're about to find out.
So how confident are you? Here's the good thing. If Mike Gundy goes to this offseason and doesn't make changes, okay, and OSU sucks next year, okay, see ya. I mean, I don't care how much the buyout is. we're all going to donate. Bye, gone. Yeah. We to the last, there were people that stuck up for you. There were people that tried to explain the equity like we're trying to do here, all that kind of stuff. You threw it back in our face. You tried to be the smartest guy in the room when we were all telling you that changes had to be made. No, Mike, you thought you were the smartest guy in the room. You thought, hey, I can do it in a way that nobody else can think of, right? And it didn't work. So the positive thing about this is I don't think anybody here, we're talking about changes. We all know Mike Gundy, though. There's no way that anybody on this chat or OSU fan can sit here and go, I guarantee you Mike Gundy's going to clean house. Nobody is confident in that. So my response to that would be have confidence in the fact that if he doesn't and next year is a failure, it is absolutely over. The Mike Gundy tenure is over.
Yes, I think I would agree with that. One thing, of course, my mind always goes towards the business side of things. My first question is, does Weiberg change that? Is there a way to get rid of that automatic renewal?
There is. Yeah, there already is with what he said the other day. There's cause in there to get rid of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good first step. Now, then some people come back and argue, well, if you do that, you're already sending a signal to your coach that you don't want it, that you're preparing to fire him next year. No. What I think is we're going back to what every other coach in America has in their contract.
Absolutely.
That's what we're going back to.
You're preparing to provide accountability is what you're
yes,
doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that's not what we're saying. We're going back to what everybody else has got, Mike.
Yeah.
So I think we will be better next year. How much better? It wouldn't take much. And I think that's another question that we're going to have to ask ourselves. Okay. Now, I don't know what the expectation is going to be based on what players we're going to get in, how the team's going to gel. There's a lot of questions to be answered still about next year. But, okay, let's say we come out and we go 6-6. Yeah, okay, yeah, we got back to a bowl game, but
that's why I'm glad we didn't do that this year. That's one of the silver linings.
Yes. Yeah, if you're going to fail big.
Yeah, to where we're having these tough conversations instead of just trying to gloss it over and kiss Mike Gundy's butt, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, you're right. Because if we'd have gone 6-6 and we'd still been going to a bowl game, probably no changes would be made.
People would be frustrated, but they wouldn't be talking about $30 million buyouts, right? So, you want to know the best way to get people excited about next year, in my opinion. The fastest way, okay? And it wouldn't cost anybody any money at the moment, okay, is that if Mike Gundy came out and said, you know what, all you people that have helped donate to this NIL, we all, as Oklahoma State alumni, we all have to do our part to donating to this university to get this NIL fund to where it needs to be. Well, here's the donation I'm willing to make. Remove the rollover part of my contract. I'm going to be held accountable from now on. That's my donation to Oklahoma State. And here's why I'm doing that, OSU fans, because I'm betting on myself that I can get this thing built back, so I don't need that rollover because you ain't firing my ass because I'm getting it fixed. Now, if Mike Gundy came out in a press conference and said that, how would OSU fans react?
I'd go donate $100 right now.
Damn right you would, and you'd buy season tickets.
Yep.
And you'd say, well, we'll see, Mike. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do this. But I think that goes back to that relationship thing that Mike really doesn't have, in my opinion, that great a relationship with the fans. Now, I just
really
honest here. I don't see him around town doing a whole lot of extracurricular with fans and all that kind of stuff. Now we know that doesn't mean that you can't win or that you don't know what you're doing or anything. As much as I love the guy, Mike Boynton was the best about that. You'd see him at my kids' softball game sometimes. You know what I mean? He was that guy, but we just couldn't win. I'm not saying that Mike has to do that, but I think what he is going to have to realize is the biggest part right now, in my opinion, who has the biggest, I won't say the biggest, I'll say an equal part in getting this program back is the fans. Because without NIL dollars, and Mike's even said it, you're not going to compete. Well,
we're in a quandary, though, man. I mean, if we give NIL dollars and Mike keeps getting to be a pompous ass and a rollover and all this.
That's true.
Whereas if we don't give NIL and we don't show up, then Weiberg has to fire his ass. Or at least make him accountable, which is better for Oklahoma State. Yeah. So you're left with the quandary as an Oklahoma State fan. Do I continue to try to help OSU in the short term by giving to NIL, or do I make a statement that hurts Oklahoma State in the short term to help it for what I foresee as a help for the long term by actually putting accountability around this? It is a weird situation to be in as a fan.
Yeah. I think where I'm at right now, I would still say support the program. Let's give Mike his shot. Okay, yeah. He's that's the equity he's earned over 20 years. Let's give him his shot to try to turn this thing around. Again, like you said, next year we don't make changes, we're in the exact same boat. A year from now, you and I are still on here talking about another losing season. I'm sorry. It just at that point you got to go. Yeah. I mean that's just all there is to it.
What's the best offensive game you can remember from Oklahoma State?
Ever?
No, this year.
Let's see. Tulsa.
Okay, well, it's Tulsa. I mean, they got beat by Florida Atlantic by 50 points at home.
Yeah.
That really doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about like in the Big. Okay, let's say in the Big 12.
In the Big 12, I'd probably say BYU.
Better than Texas Tech?
I'd probably say better just because BYU's got a much better defense than Tech.
Okay. So we lit up Texas Tech, right?
Yeah, they just fired their coordinator.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and hey, Tim DeRuyter, he's actually a guy that I've heard that name said before, like Oklahoma State should hire him. It was like 10 years ago or something.
Right.
But the point being is it's at least a name that I've heard of before, right? And, hey, they didn't play around, and they're going to win 8 games, right? Yeah. I don't, again, this lack of urgency from Mike Gundy, he's showing again that he is not adapting to what college football is now. So I mean, it's almost like he's wanting to play basketball back in the early 80s with no shot clock, right?
Yeah.
He's wanting to draw up the perfect play and only shoot layups, but he's doing so with a 25-second NBA shot clock on him, and he's still drawing up these plays, and we're getting shot clock violations because he's wanting to draw up the perfect plays that take a minute and a half to develop and get a layup. I don't understand the lack of urgency here. It's driving me insane.
Yeah, well, it's like anything, like we said before, anything that must be done eventually, it should be done immediately. There's no reason to drag this stuff out. Everything in college football is moving at the speed of light these days. When you look at all the changes that have all of this stuff, we've literally gone in a couple years to, you can get in trouble for paying a kid's phone bill to. Yes. You can pay whatever, they can transfer it anytime they want. Just you're gonna have to adapt at the rate of adaptation is gonna have to be a lot higher than what it has had in the past, because Mike has seen over 20 years. Mike has seen a lot of change in college football. He has, between the scheme, the offensive schemes, the no huddle spread became a much bigger deal. Guys are running different defensive fronts than what they had done in the past, but those are all on field things. But we've never seen changes off the field like we have in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's there's no question about that. We got to adapt quicker.
I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're great at that. Okay, Mike Gundy, should he be fired or not?
No.
Casey Dunn?
Yes.
Okay, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Give me your thoughts on where you're at there.
So that's another one that I think is kind of a bit of a quandary because, Nardo's only had 2 years. Yeah. It's not like we have a whole lot of evidence one way or the other. We do have 2 years that were not great defense. I think the biggest issue that I have this year is, I'll give you Colin Oliver goes down, Nick Martin goes down. I don't expect you to have the 2021 defense at that point. I don't expect you to have a top 25. I'll even don't expect you to have a top 50. But you can't be one of the second worst defenses in the entire nation when it comes to giving up yards. You just I think the floor, they went too low on the floor, in my opinion, for him to keep his job. Now that doesn't mean that Brian Nardo's not a smart guy. Doesn't mean that he doesn't know schemes. Doesn't mean that he may turn into being a great defensive coordinator. But frankly, we've got to have changes on that side of the ball. And I kind of feel sorry for the guy because, again, there were several. We got a number of sacks on Friday. There were. It wasn't like that we were devoid of no good things.
Right.
But Mike and Gundy was correct when he said this, that, the scheme may not have been the plan may not have been that bad, but our offense stunk so bad that our defense was out there on the field so much that eventually they're going to cave. I get all that, but let's talk about penalties. Or
the other 11 weeks.
Yeah, or the other 11. Yeah, and I think that's the problem that I'm running with Nardo. I think the other thing that I think, we mentioned that humility part about Gundy. If Gundy fires Brian Nardo, he's basically having to admit he made a mistake.
Yes, which is hard for Mike to do.
Yeah, that's hard to do, but that's one, in my opinion, for the betterment of the program. You need to rip that Band-Aid off. Whatever part it hurts your ego or whatever else,
right.
Whatever else, the opinion on that, you got to do it. And I don't see how we continue to have a defense that is that poor and continue to have the same coordinator around. So
let me throw a wrench into this. What if Mike Gundy comes out and says, hey, let me explain something to you guys, okay? In the offseason, we as a staff, we trumped Brian Nardo, and we all decided to go to a 40 front because that's what we thought we knew the best and we thought would be best for this defense. And we thought maybe Colin Oliver could get a better edge rush. We thought it would work better against heavy sets. We thought all this kind of stuff. And by the time we realized we made the wrong decision, we were halfway through the season, and we really couldn't go back to running the odd stack. And I am going to bring Brian Nardo back, and I am going to do so in a way that he is going to get to hire the position coaches that he thinks he needs, and he is going to get to run the odd stack defense that I hired him to bring in to run. Now, this is like a crazy scenario because Mike Gundy's never done anything close to this. But if Mike Gundy came out and made that statement that I'm keeping Brian Nardo and that's why, what would your reaction to that be?
I think my reaction would be, all right, Mike, you're on the absolute shortest leash ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, that's just that I would not agree with that. And again, I don't think Gundy's going to do that, but in my opinion, I'm sorry, guys. I've got enough evidence to say that this is not going the right direction. Again, he may be an absolute genius. Everybody on the staff may see it, but you know what? That's the way that the thing goes sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It's business.
Yeah, it's a business. That's the way it goes. I mean, that think about it. Go back and look at any college football team. Heck, look at any sports team. How many times did you see it where you actually had a good coach, but you know what? Ball didn't fall the right way. You look at Ryan Day at Ohio State. Yeah. I mean, the guy has had a lot of success up there. He can't beat Michigan. They're talking about firing him. I mean, and the guy's had, won Big Ten titles. He's been in the playoff. I mean, all those things. I hope
they do, because then Knowles might be available again, right?
Yeah. I mean, hey, guy can wish, right?
Why the hell do we not do whatever? I maybe Knowles would have won anyways, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's but I think that from a fan base standpoint, I really think it's going to be a really tough sell to try to get OSU fans on the Brian Nardo train at this point. So,
even if that's the narrative, even if he falls on that sword,
I think that might get him a little bit more time. I mean, maybe you buy him another year, but again, here's the problem. But like we just said, if we do the same thing next year, in my opinion, Gundy's seat is getting very, very hot. Mike, are you willing to?
Gundy's seat's already hot, Coach. Gundy's seat's hot going into next year. Yeah, he can think what he wants, but it's hot.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But then, okay, now if you stick your neck out for Nardo, and then we have another bad season, and our defense still really stinks, man, that's almost just that's another dagger that could make your seat excruciatingly hot.
So our roster is basically going to get turned over almost entirely, right? Offensive line is going to be all brand new. Defensive line is going to be all brand new. You have a couple of young, good secondary players, but who knows what's going to happen with Nick Martin? You might have all new linebackers, right? You're going to have new running backs. I mean, when I say new, not Ollie Gordon. Okay, you're going to have you're likely not going to have Deshaun Stribling. I mean, maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't. I don't know. You're not going to have Rashad Owens. You're not going to have Brendan Presley, right? So you're going to have a bunch of new receivers. You're going to have a new quarterback, whoever that may. I don't think Milwaukee Smith will be the starter next year. I think it's either going to be Zane Flores or Garrett Rangel. I think that was part of the deliberation of moving past Bowman at times. So you're going to have all this new turnover on your roster. Then you're going to have a new offensive coordinator. You're going to have a new defensive coordinator. And I'm not stopping there, Scott. I am not giving a pass to our safeties and corners coach. I'm not giving a pass to our linebacker play. I'm not giving a pass to our defensive line play. And you're already not giving a pass to the offensive line coach. Yeah. So if OSU fans had their druthers, you're firing offensive coordinator, defensive line coach, offensive line coach. You're moving your linebackers coach down to defensive line. So now you need a new linebackers coach, and you're firing your safeties and corners coach.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yikes.
I mean, this is all fun to talk about, but
well, here's the one thing I would say in that scenario. That's probably not likely. He's probably going to do something that we haven't even thought about.
That's what clean house looks like, though.
Yeah. If he cleans house, that's what it's going to look like.
Yes.
In that scenario, basically, you got a whole bunch of new guys coming in. There's one person that's going to have to be able to hold that together and is going to have to direct everything. And it's Mike Gundy.
Great point.
So
great point.
It's so good.
You're a people's person, Scott. You understand people.
Yeah. So I think that's the whole key. And again, if Gundy truly believes, let's try to get into the mind of Mike Gundy. I know that can be a scary place sometimes. If he truly believes that Brian Nardo is the best defensive coordinator that we can have here at Oklahoma State to help us make us successful for next year, okay, stick your neck out for the guy. If you truly believe that. If you don't, it's time to move on. And in my opinion, in my brain, it's time to move on. But I don't know. And again, the fans, we're not in every meeting. We're not in every locker room discussion. We're not in recruiting visits, any of those things. We don't see what's going on behind the scenes. But again, sometimes things in this world can be it wasn't your fault at all, but that's just the way the cards fell. So. And I think, Coach, if you get into this profession, you have to understand that and recognize that that's just the way this business is. Yeah.
So having gone through that entire narrative of what clean house would actually look like, would it not be a lot cleaner just to remove the head coach and leave everybody else in place and see if it was actually the head coach that was causing all the problems?
Yeah, if it was only that easy. No, because I think the problem would end up is the new coach. He's going to want, if you had a new head coach, he's going to want his guys in here. And because then, at the same time, it would be nice if I was the new coach coming in and then our offense still stunk next year. I could say, well, it was the previous guy's coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always looking, you're always looking for how do I shift the blame? I feel like coaches do that sometimes when they fire somebody mid-season or, whatever.
That's why Gundy won't do it. And I honestly, I appreciate him for not doing that.
Yeah, no,
I've been in the coaching industry. I appreciate that part of it.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. In fact, I think that's actually the right way to handle it. Now the season's over, Mike. It's time, but no. As an overall, I appreciate that. I think that's the right way to handle things.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? I mean, just kind of where are you at, and I mean, what kind of lease do you have on Gundy and all that kind of thing?
I think.
By the way, Jake Spavital said it would be good, but he's not going anywhere. Jake Spavital is the offensive coordinator at Baylor. That just really made one of the biggest turnarounds in any Big 12 school. Jake Spavital is not coming to Oklahoma State from Baylor.
Yeah. Well, I wish we could get him. I remember going up against him in high school. Yeah. That kid was a good quarterback.
Maybe he would. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see that, though.
Probably not. I think where we go from here, again, I'm not yet on the fire Gundy train. We had a bad season, no doubt. We've all talked about it. We don't like what we saw this year. Number of things we think need to change. But I think no matter what, whether we fire, let's say that we fired no coordinators, that everybody or no, let's just say that nobody leaves, no position coaches leave. It's the same coaching staff going into next year. We're already going to have a lot of turnover and change happening just because of the roster.
Correct. That's my point.
So my deal is, okay, if you believe Mike is good at steering the ship, okay, we need a good captain that's going to steer the ship. Now, do I think we need different crewmates, deckhands, if you will, rowing the ship? Yes. But I don't think it's in the best long-term solution for us to fire Mike Gundy right now. Now, again, if we're in the exact same boat next year that we are this year, I'm going to have a totally different opinion on that. But do I think there needs to be massive turnover with the coaching staff? Yes. But at the same time, Mike, I'm not asking you next year.
Can he deal with that? Can his brain deal with that? His brain is going to melt when all that happens.
No, I know. Well, and Frank, and one comment he made a long time ago that I didn't like is, he just said he just got tired of having to hire coaches and everything. Okay, Mike, that's what we're paying you for $8 million a year for. That's
that was pathetic.
Yeah.
With a capital P. Pathetic. That's a pathetic comment.
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, and it's been a few years since he said that, but I mean, come on, man. What are we paying you for?
Well, he went and got Brian Nardo, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, and frankly, I think we need to have. I know Gundy probably doesn't want to hear this. I kind of would like to have a few extra voices in the room when it comes to who's the next guy you're going to hire.
Yeah, me too. Coach, because here's the deal. If you don't go out and hire good coordinators, where Oklahoma State, first of all, if you don't fire any coordinators, the Boone Pickens Stadium is going to be empty. OSU fans are not going to give to NIL. They're not going to show up if it's Casey Dunn and Brian Nardo, and the way that they just run it back. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have the resources that you need to get this figured out. I'll take that even further. If you don't go get an offensive coordinator that will, when Oklahoma State fans hear the name at offensive coordinator, who it is, it needs to be somebody like a Dana Holgerson, to where somebody like me and you can go, oh, well, they're going to come in here and have total autonomy over the offense. This isn't just a puppet hire. Mike Gundy's not going to be the puppet master of this offensive coordinator, and we're just going to get the same o, right? So like when we went from Mike Yursich to even Sean Gleason and then to Casey Dunn, Mike Gundy's in control of this offense. He's hiring coordinators to do the day-by-day duties of breaking down film and putting the game plans together, so he's not having to do all that, but he is still in charge of the entire offense and the way that it's ran, the type of plays we run, the structure of it. So unless he goes and gets a guy that is separate from him that will come in and not give two shits what he thinks and will run their own offense and tell him to back off and get out of here, then Oklahoma State fans, I don't think, are going to be excited about it.
I agree. I think it's what's likely to happen is if Dunn is gone, you're going to see a spike in fan base morale.
Yes.
at least immediately. But then my guess is we're probably going to hire somebody from D2. Gundy's going to do another Google search, and then off we go.
Oh, surely not. He can't do that. He can't, Scott. He can't. He's got to go get a Jake Spavital type guy.
Yes, he should
convince a G.J. McKinney to come be the offensive coordinator here instead of being the head coach at Texas State. Something like that. It has to be something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just know Gundy. That's what he's likely to going to want to do. All right. Here's a fun scenario for you. Gundy doesn't hire an offensive coordinator, and then he takes over the offensive coordinating duties.
I'm out. I may not even go to a game. I've seen him call plays. He sucks.
I'm with you.
I mean, I saw the two, and I also know that means he's in charge of the personnel, and that means that if you're older, you're going to play. It doesn't matter if there's somebody younger that's better than you. I sat there and watched Brandon Weeden on the sideline of Bedlam in 2009. I was in Norman, and I watched every snap with Oklahoma State would not get past midfield because he would not take a injured Zach Robinson out of the game and put in Brandon Weeden because he has this weird, maybe it's because he got put in as a true freshman, but he has this just weird fear of inexperienced quarterbacks going in and like blowing up the world or something, right? It's like a nuclear bomb's going to go off if you put in a young guy. It's like it's going to ruin their whole world forever, that kind of deal. So the Mike Gundy taking over the offense and calling plays, I'm probably more out on that than I am anything else. I would say, hell, keep Dunn in that scenario.
Yeah, no, I would agree. The other thing that I would also point out and again, does experience matter? Yes. I mean, it's not, I'm not going to knock experience. But what I would say to everybody out there is our offensive line this year, how much experience did they have? A ton of experience. They weren't any good.
Well, he had great experience, but hell, nobody had more experience than Bowman.
Yeah, yeah, we had a 7th year. That's what I've always said is if I have again what the best case scenario is you have a kid that is talented and he has experience. But if you can only pick one, I take talent. I mean, he may make
you do.
He may make a mistake or two, but the reason why we didn't lose this year because we just didn't have enough experience. We lost this year because we didn't have enough talent, both on the field and up in the coaching booth. My opinion. I mean, that's as brutally honest of an opinion as I could give tonight.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to say it again. I've been in the coaching industry my entire adult career, so it's kind of an odd position to talk about other coaches in these types of settings. But then it's not, because you're talking about guys that make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. If let's say Casey Dunn is removed, right? Okay. So he's been making how much at Oklahoma State? Is it $1 million?
I think it was $700,000-800,000, something like that.
Okay, so he's been making $700,000 or $800,000 at Oklahoma State University for 5 or 6 years. He was making $300,000 or $400,000 for 5 or 6 years before that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy is wealthy. Okay,
yeah.
he can either, and I'm not saying hey you have to go. You can go take that $200,000-$400,000 and still be on Oklahoma State staff. Okay, or you can go somewhere else and find another job. You're wealthy. Okay. Brian Nardo became wealthy at Oklahoma State. He made $1.5 million for 2 years of work at Oklahoma State. And by the way, he's going to go and find another job somewhere that's going to pay him very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a business. This is high dollars. And so from that scenario, I have no reservations whatsoever having these conversations. None.
Yeah, no, and that's if you, and like I said before, if you get into this profession, you just have to accept that's the way this world works. We've been very, I would say for the most part, fairly fortunate in the last 20 years. We haven't had a lot of what I would say duds on coaching. We've had far more coaches. Okay, Jim Knowles. Okay, yeah, we didn't have the money to keep him from Ohio State. Dana Holgerson was a good one. Mike Yurcich was a good one. Todd Monken may be one of the best offensive coordinators in the world right now.
We need an edge like that.
Yeah, we've had good luck with coordinators, but you know what? Sometimes not every single hire is a good one. Just and that's something I look at in the business world. I've said is that you'd like to think that for the most part you make good hires. You have your process, you have the skills, the talents, the abilities that you're looking for in a person for whatever the role is. But you know what? If you do this, if you hire people long enough, eventually you're going to have one where I something I just didn't see it in the interview or on tape or whatever.
They just weren't a fit.
Yeah, they just want to fit culture-wise.
Something like that.
It's going to happen if you do it. It's like my dad always said: if you play baseball long enough, you're going to strike out.
Sure, of course.
I mean that's just
aggressive
right.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but the key, I think, to me is when that happens, admit it, move on, make a good next hire, and that's the best you can do. And I think that's what I'm asking Gundy to do today is just realize, okay, a couple of these guys probably not the right fit, is what it is. It's like you said, it's a business. We'll move on. Let's get the right guys in here, and let those other guys seek their fortunes elsewhere.
Are you looking in the transfer portal for a quarterback? Let's circle back to that conversation.
I think if you believe that your guy is on campus right now, I don't think
that.
Well, it's hard for me to judge because I don't know. I haven't seen Flores.
It's a hard situation. Yeah.
I don't know.
Nobody's seen him in a game, even the coaches, right?
Yeah. I mean, so that I don't know. I don't know if that's the right answer or not. I don't know if Rangel's the guy. I don't think Milwaukee Smith is the guy. Again, he looked good against Tech. He's done some good things. Got a decent arm. I mean, there's tools to work with there for sure. But I just don't know if that's the guy that you're going to want to go get. But back to what we said previously, I would rather us go shore up the offensive line with a Rangel or a Flores back there, or even a Milwaukee Smith, rather than have to go break the bank to go get a quarterback that's going to be sitting on his backside the whole game because we can't block. I mean, that's to me. I think quarterback, and as weird as this is going to sound, quarterback, in my opinion, is not the highest priority this year. Again, but now let's say that the evaluation from Gundy is that none of those guys on campus are the guy. All right, now you got to go get one. So we'll just have to see what the evaluation is.
I think the advantage Oklahoma State has is that you have 3 of them. So it's not like, okay, well, you have Milwaukee Smith, right? We think he's the future. Okay, great. And then you have whatever behind it, that you're not, that walk-on guys.
Right.
You literally have 3 extreme, like we have a comment here, that Rangel is not the guy. It's either Flores or Smith. I think that obviously that's an opinion, and that could be debated, and each player could have their own arguments one way or the other. What I would say about that is I think the security blanket is there that just the odds of it, right, would say that if you have 3 extremely talented young quarterbacks, one of them probably is going to hit, right?
Yeah, you would. The odds are that one of them would. So, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to play the percentages on that I think we can at least get decent quarterback play out of one of those 3 guys. Now, again, I hope we don't do a 3 quarterback carousel like we did last year. I'd like to hope, and, that's something Gundy did address, that we need to figure out who we are a lot earlier in the process. We can't be waiting until late August to try to figure out what our identity is going to be on offense and or on defense. So I think that's something. I think that is something that Gundy is aware of, and I think he's going to change that. So my guess, at least my hope, would be that one of those 3 guys emerges out of spring ball as that's the guy we're running with to take the first snap. So
yeah, let's end on this. And we've had a great crowd, Coach. I mean, this is just an absolutely very humbled that there's so many people that showed up to this live chat. We're going to do this every Sunday night, and hopefully, as this goes on, we're going to be talking about more sports. I got Matt Clark, remember the point guard from the '83 team. Yep. Got Joey Graham. He's going to be on the show this week. I've got more football interviews from Billy Stone, and then also Terrence Richardson. And then I also just talked to Randy Rutherford today. Going to have Randy Rutherford on the show. Haven't got that interview done yet, but going to have that done this week. And then Victor Williams, and then I'm going to talk to him as well, and then Terrell Knowles. So this is just the beginning of us reconnecting all these wonderful alumni back to Oklahoma State. And part of the goal there, Scott, is that some of these players that are at Oklahoma State now, maybe if they catch wind of some of the comments or some of the sweat, blood, and tears, just by osmosis, that if you see these alumni that put so much into building this program, maybe it'll make it mean something to you, right?
Yeah. A lot of those guys you just mentioned, those names, I've got great memories on that. I remember Victor Williams hitting a shot with no time left on a shot clock to beat OU. And
No. There was time left.
Well, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I see what you did there. But, the other thing I remember about that one is Kelvin, as soon as he hit it, I was there. Kelvin Sampson runs all the way to midcourt going like this. And he says he was trying to call timeout, because we all know that this is how you call timeout in a basketball game. Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, hey, we're going to do this every Sunday night. This has been absolutely it's humbling whenever this many people show up and we have this great conversation. Scott, you always bring a great amount of just knowledge and understanding and just level-headedness. So, hey, another great conversation. Thank you, Scott, so much for joining, and thanks for everybody out there. So any final thoughts, Scott, before we get out of here?
Thank goodness we can put this season to bed. I look forward, hopefully next year we're going to be talking about some good things. I want things that we can brag about and we can be proud of that are going on within our football team. And truly, I think it's going to be a long time before we get to meet again to play some football. I do think changes are coming. I think the better days are on the horizon. I wouldn't pick us to win the national championship next year, but
we're not going to beat Oregon on the road in week 2.
I don't think that's going to happen. But I think we've got to remain at least hopeful that things are going to get better from here. But the other thing I'd also encourage everybody is sports are not done at Oklahoma State University. We've got a lot of things to look forward to. We've got a new coach with a very new basketball program going on. Our women's program has been doing fairly well. Our wrestling program, I am very, very excited about what's going on there. I can tell you guys in the spring, I was talking to my wife earlier, I am incredibly excited about our softball team. Yeah. I think that they've got a really good chance to have another great season. I think we're going to have we've got a lot of new faces on our baseball program next year, but Josh Holliday is going to have those guys competitive. So I think that'd be the other thing I tell everybody is that, we're not just football fans around here. We're fans of Oklahoma State University.
Yeah.
to support those other programs.
Great job, Scott. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks.